Right, so we're diving deep today, and
See?
it's a good one. This is a speech everybody's been talking about.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle accepting the NAACP Image Award. It was back in 2025.
Mm.
And, he's been kind of racking up the awards, but
Yeah, he's got it.
right from the jump, you can just tell
Yeah.
this one hits different,
Mm-hmm.
And he even calls out why.
Right.
It's not just the award, it's the who behind it,
Yeah.
the NAACP.
He name checks them right away. And it's interesting, he brings up that date, 1927.
Yeah.
Their first Hollywood office opening up, fighting against racist portrayals in film. I mean, that's going way back. That's important context.
It really sets the stage right.
Yeah.
This isn't just another trophy on the shelf.
No.
This is linked to like a century of fighting for representation.
Mm-hmm.
But then he throws in this curveball.
Yeah.
He talks about his Netflix checks clear
Right.
and how he doesn't owe anybody any work.
Yeah.
Now I chuckled at that.
I mean, it's classic Chappelle. But there's some
What's the deeper meaning?
There's some layers to this. On one hand, he's just being funny, right?
Okay.
It's Chappelle. He's using humor to disarm you. But he's also making a really pointed statement about power, about who has it, who doesn't, and that financial freedom he's talking about, especially for artists from marginalized communities. That's huge.
Right.
It's about having the power to say no, the power to walk away. So it's not just about the money itself.
Right.
It's about the artistic integrity that comes with it.
Right. So it's not just about the money. It's about the control that comes with it.
Exactly. It's about saying, I can tell the stories I want to tell, not the stories that some executive or some studio head thinks will sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's breaking free. And I think that's why you feel that energy shift when he talks about feeling invigorated and hoping that other artists feel that same energy.
He immediately ties that into community, right?
Yes.
Saying even though things are tough, we got each other. But that's not just some like cheesy platitude, is it?
No. I mean, he's talking about survival, especially when you're an artist who's out there pushing boundaries, challenging norms. He even uses the word everything to describe community and think about what he's up against. He tackles some really sensitive, really controversial topics head on.
Right.
Having that support system, that can be the difference between speaking your truth and being totally shut down, silenced.
This is where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
He tells this funny story about his dad's advice for when you mess up. Just say, whoops, and keep moving.
Right.
Now, it seems simple, but is there something deeper there?
Oh, there's definitely something deeper there.
Yeah.
It's about resilience, In a world that's so quick to cancel people.
Oh, yeah.
To shut down anything that's even slightly controversial. Chappelle is embracing the idea of imperfection. He's saying, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not going to let them paralyze me. And that's crucial for any artist, but especially one who's pushing societal boundaries like he is.
Right. Then he shifts gears.
He does.
And he starts shouting out specific people.
Yeah.
First up, Stan Lathan.
Stan Lathan.
Now I know the name.
Yeah.
Fill me in. Why is this acknowledgement so significant?
Well, Stan Lathan, his career is incredible. You're talking about someone who directed Sanford and Son.
Wow.
All in the Family. Even Sesame Street.
Wow.
He's been shaping television for decades.
Hmm.
And Chappelle specifically praises him for placing black faces on screen. This isn't just about thanking a mentor.
Right.
This is about connecting Lathan's work directly to the mission of the NAACP.
You're right. It's like he's saying, look at this guy who for decades has been doing the work the NAACP has been fighting for.
Exactly. And think about the technical side of things. Lathan wasn't just behind the camera. He was shaping visual language. He was normalizing black families, black stories, in a way that had never been done before. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And Chappelle is recognizing that lineage.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is just the first shout out. He goes on to mention his wife, Elaine, musician, Robert Glasper, and his godbrother, Ben Jealous. It's like he's mapping out his own personal support system.
Which, again, reinforces that message about community, right? But it's also about acknowledging those who are behind the scenes, the ones who don't always get the spotlight. It's a reminder that success is rarely a solo act.
Yeah.
It's collaborative.
Yeah. This speech is already so layered.
I know, right?
We've got history, social commentary, technical craft. Where do we even go from here?
Well, there's this one line that I think will really unlock the rest of this.
Okay.
Chappelle describes the entertainment industry as a monster.
Ooh.
That needs to change.
Oh, I can't wait to unpack that one.
Yeah.
I'm already sensing this deep dive is going to be epic.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, so that monster line.
I know, right?
My mind is still buzzing from that,
Yeah.
the entertainment industry as this like behemoth.
It's a great image, isn't it?
That needs to change. But how do you actually chip away at something that massive?
Right. Well, and Chappelle kind of hints at an answer, I think.
Okay.
When he talks about how every artist has a role to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every time they're on camera, on stage.
So it's not just about those with big platforms like him.
No.
Everyone has a part.
Everyone. Think about it. Each time a unique story gets told, a different perspective is shared. It subtly shifts the landscape. You know, it challenges those like default narratives that monster has been churning out for decades.
It's like each individual act of creation is a little crack in that foundation.
Yes, exactly.
Of that monster.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the more diverse the creators, the more those cracks multiply.
Yeah.
Until eventually that whole structure starts to crumble. And this ties back to what we were talking about earlier, about Chappelle feeling so invigorated. Now that he has that creative freedom.
Because he can be one of those cracks.
He can.
But on a much larger scale.
Exactly. And he even acknowledges, you know, that not everyone's in that position.
Right.
Which is why he emphasizes community so much. Because supporting each other, amplifying those voices, that's how you accelerate the change.
It suddenly becomes less about individual success and more about collective progress.
Yes.
It's almost like a movement.
It is a movement.
Yeah.
And movements need momentum, which is why I think his philosophy is so crucial.
Right.
You know, if you're terrified of making a mistake, of being canceled, you're less likely to take risks. You're less likely to actually push those boundaries.
So you got to be willing to stumble, to learn, and to keep pushing forward even when it gets messy.
Because real change, I mean, it's rarely clean or comfortable.
Yeah.
It's definitely not going to come from playing it safe. And he even jokes about how, you know, the NAACP is sadly more relevant than it's been in a long time.
Wow.
Which speaks volumes, I think.
Yeah. It's like he's saying we still need this fight.
We do.
This collective push for justice.
Yeah.
It's not a relic of the past.
No. And this is where, you know, going back to Stan Lathan, his work becomes even more fascinating when you think about what he was doing back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
Literally changing what people saw on their screens, normalizing Black families, tackling these really tough issues, but with humor.
Right.
All under this guise of entertainment.
That's the subversive power of art, isn't it?
It is.
You can slip in these messages.
You could
challenge perceptions.
Wow.
Without people even realizing they're being challenged.
Right. And Chappelle is a master of that, wouldn't you say?
I would say.
Yeah.
He weaves that social commentary into comedy so seamlessly.
Right.
It makes you think even while you're laughing.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to his shout-outs to Elaine, Robert Glasper, Ben Jealous.
Yeah. They represent these different facets of his life, right?
Yeah.
Family, artistic collaboration, and social activism.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he's showing us that ecosystem that sustains him, that allows him to do the work he does.
Right.
Which, again, brings us back to community.
I know we keep circling back to that idea.
I know.
It's clearly central to his message. But what's the takeaway for our listeners? How do we connect this to our own lives?
I think the takeaway is that each of us has a sphere of influence, however big or small.
Yeah.
And within that sphere, we can make choices.
Right.
That either reinforce that monster or chip away at it.
It's about being conscious of those narratives that we support.
Yes.
The voices that we amplify.
Absolutely.
And the way we respond to those who are trying to shake things up.
Exactly. And remember, change doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's incremental. And it requires a willingness to say whoops and just keep going.
That's powerful. I'm feeling inspired, but also I'm realizing this conversation isn't over yet.
I know.
There's still so much to unpack.
Well, luckily, we have a whole other part to this deep dive.
Yes.
And next, we're going to zoom in on those personal shout-outs.
Okay.
And what they reveal about his journey and his values.
Man, we've been dissecting this Dave Chappelle NAACP speech.
I know, right?
And it's amazing how much ground we've covered. Like everything from history to social commentary to even like the art of comedy itself.
It really is a masterclass in how to use humor
Yeah.
as a tool for social change.
Totally. And I want to revisit those personal shout-outs he gave before we wrap up this deep dive, because
Okay.
it felt like it was more than just like politeness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He mentions his wife, Elaine,
Mm-hmm.
musician Robert Glasper,
Yeah.
and then his godbrother, Ben Jealous.
Right.
And each one of those people seem to represent this different facet of his world.
Yeah, it's like he's giving us a glimpse behind the curtain. Right, like revealing this network that supports him
Yeah.
both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And remember what he said about community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is him putting faces
Right.
to that concept.
You're right. It's not just some abstract ideal for him. This is like lived experience.
Right.
You've got Elaine, the bedrock of family, Robert Glasper representing artistic collaboration and pushing those creative boundaries.
Right.
And then Ben Jealous, who just like embodies social activism and that fight for systemic change.
And he highlights their specific qualities, too, like
Yeah.
Elaine's unwavering support,
Yeah.
Glasper's innovative music,
Mm-hmm.
Jealous's dedication to justice. It's like he's saying, look, these are the values I hold dear. These are the people who inspire me to be better.
It really adds another layer to his message about individual success versus collective progress.
Right.
You know, he's acknowledging that even someone as seemingly independent as Dave Chappelle relies on this community
Yes.
of diverse talents and perspectives.
Think about it. Like, Elaine might be that grounding force that allows him to take risks on stage.
Yeah.
You know, Glasper might be the one who's challenging him musically,
Mm.
pushing those creative boundaries. And then Jealous is that voice
Yeah.
that reminds him about the bigger picture, the fight beyond the stage.
It's almost like a behind-the-scenes look at how a movement is built.
It is.
You need those different voices, those complementary skills to create real impact.
Yes, you do.
And it goes back to his point that everyone has a role to play,
Yeah.
even if it's not always in the spotlight.
Exactly. We tend to focus on that singular figure,
Mhm.
the Dave Chappelle at the microphone.
Right.
But his speech reminds us that there's a whole ecosystem at play,
Yeah.
this web of relationships and influences that all contribute to that final product.
So if we connect all the dots,
Okay.
the historical context of the NAACP to Chappelle's monster metaphor,
Right.
to those personal shout-outs,
Yeah.
what's the overarching message here? What do we want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the key takeaway is that change, whether it's in the entertainment industry or in society as a whole, it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
It requires individual courage, absolutely, but it also demands a supportive community.
Yeah.
Diverse perspectives, and a willingness to keep pushing forward even when it gets messy.
It's not just about those grand gestures or pronouncements. It's about those everyday choices.
It is.
The narratives that we support, the voices we amplify, the people that we choose to surround ourselves with.
Absolutely. Chappelle's speech is a call to action, but it's also a reminder that we're not alone in this fight.
Right.
We have each other, and that's everything.
That's a perfect note to end on. This deep dive has been incredible.
It has.
Filled with laughter and insight and just some serious food for thought.
Yeah, and hopefully it's inspired our listeners to not just consume entertainment,
Right.
but to be active participants in shaping the narratives that define our culture.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Absolutely.
Keep questioning, keep connecting, and keep chipping away at that monster. Until next time.